Hi, I'm Claudia Brown Coulter with Pivotal Peace. I'm your go to mediator for navigating divorce while parenting children with special needs. I'm also a legal document assistant, LDA, based in the greater Los Angeles area. So let's talk about the needs of your child. These needs are not going to stop just because you are divorced. They're going to be present. They're present now. They're going to be present as you move into separate homes, and they're going to be present post divorce. So let's really have a conversation about some things you should consider. Because when you share custody with another person, it's very different than if you're in the same house with them. So these things need to be coordinated. First thing, you really need to have clear communication. Now, communication goes both ways. Some people are really great communicators and some people are incredibly obtuse, and that's intentional. So you have to do whatever you can do to make sure that the communication is clear and that you understand what they are trying to say to you. Part of this, especially if your child has special needs and needs routine medical care beyond what maybe their typical peer might need, you and your co-parent are going to need to give one another regular updates so that you guys are in the loop, so that your child's medical care does not lapse. And I'm not just meaning a lapse in coverage. I mean that the prescriptions are being administered, the therapies are taking place, appointments are being met, and they're being made, and people are attending them. This is very important. Now, you need to decide what type of communication app works for you. Some people really like those co-parenting apps. Some people hate them. Some people prefer email. Some people prefer text. Voice communication is also fine, but at some point, it's going to need to be written down. So if you and your co-parent have it in writing already, that's going to be one less step you have to do. And if you're writing or typing, it's going to get in your memory in a little bit of a different way. And, while you're at it, send them a calendar invite. Listen, if your co-parent is maybe a little bit disorganized, send them a calendar invite. You're probably telling me, but I shouldn't have to. Are you right? I see you. You are right. You shouldn't have to send them a calendar invite so they don't forget to take the child to the doctor, but you know them. So if they need that, send it to them. I mean, who's suffering? Your child will be suffering if they don't get to that appointment. And that leads into the second point of consistency in care. It is about making sure that they get the care that they need. Now, your children's lives are about to change. And so as they are about to change, going from one home to two, the last thing you want to do is change providers, change therapists, change doctors. You want to do as little change as possible. Change is inevitable. Insurance policies will be canceled. Somebody will quit, or coverage will no longer be accepted at a certain office. That's inevitable. But as much as you can control it right now, don't change that, because all kids feel safe with routine and consistency. And as your children's lives are beginning to change, if there's someone they see on a regular basis, they should continue to see that person. Just like when you go through a divorce, your child goes to school, that becomes a place that doesn't change. The school environment doesn't change because the home environment has changed. So it's the same thing for these medical appointments, extra therapies. Keep the providers the same. Think about your calendars. So you're going to need to coordinate appointments. Some families have a shared calendar where if they need to change days for whatever reason, they can go into the parenting app and propose a day change because they've got to switch things around. You can also keep your child's medical appointments on that calendar. Now, don't put yours on there. That's not their business no more. But make sure your child's appointments are on there so it's in a central place. Everyone can see it. And then prepare to be flexible. You're both going to have to work together to leave work early or change your schedule to make sure your child can get to their scheduled appointments. It's very important. Then decide who attends those appointments. In the past, if two parents went to an appointment, it was usually fine. Post-COVID, they don't want all of you up in there. And really, do you both need to be there? This goes back to clear communication. If you are communicating with one another, great. You don't both need to be at the appointment. If they give you any handouts, any exercises that need to be worked on, make a copy for your co-parent, or even ask the office to make a copy. If the therapist is demonstrating how certain therapies should happen or things that you should be practicing at home, ask the therapist, can we record you so that their co-parent can have a copy of this too? They're probably going to say yes, right? Because they want their patient, your child, to make progress. They're not going to say no. Or they might be like, oh, you know what? There's already a video online. Let me send you the link. Great. You want to keep detailed medical records. This is about your child. Like, listen, there's always one person in the relationship who's good with money and good with numbers and good with spreadsheet. There's always one person in the relationship who is on top of things, who knows what's happening, who has good relationships with other people, who is taking care of all of the appointments. Maybe that's you, maybe that's not. If you are not that person, please be humble enough to admit that to your co-parent, and then talk about where are your strengths so that you can perform in your strengths. So this is a strength of your co-parent, allow them to do that. And mediation is a good place to have this conversation, because this isn't about, you want to make it clear that this isn't about me taking advantage of your organization skills. This is about taking care of our child. And I have these other skill sets that I can compensate in other areas. I'm not going to call you weak. I'm just going to call this my strength. Right? You can call yourself weak. Yeah, I'm just not very organized. I forget things, but I want to be. I know this isn't a strength. So how do you propose we make this situation better? How do you propose we get on the same page? It's probably going to get under your skin because you might be a little allergic to their type of organization. Just remember, it's not about you. If it gets your child what they need, let's give them what they need. So having records is important, knowing that their medication has been administered, knowing that they've been to the doctors, knowing that all of these things are caught up. They've been to these therapies X amount of times. It's very, very important. And because you're most likely sharing legal custody, you both need to have access to medical information. Now, sometimes doctors and things like that and other medical providers, other therapists only provide access to one parent. Right? There's so many, households that have one parent in them and another parent in the other household, but they only provide access to one parent and you can't get in. You're going to just need to, if you're the person who has access, you're going to need to make sure the other parent has that information. Yeah, it's annoying, but it's not about you. Okay, I'm on broken record at this point. So when you have shared legal custody, one of the things that has to take place is you guys have to agree on their care. And usually, and I've seen a judge do this, I'm not a lawyer, but I've seen a judge go, hey, if you guys don't agree on what medical treatment should happen, but the doctor has a prescription, this professional has, and usually it's a medical doctor they're really pointing to. If they have a diagnosis, if they have a prescribed routine of care, then if you guys are in disagreement, you have to follow the doctor's orders. If you've got a child with special needs, it makes sense to follow the doctor's orders. So have conversations about what you guys are okay with, what you aren't okay with. How are you going to resolve those differences when it comes to your child's care? Now, in an emergency, the parent in whose care the child is in, they have the ability to make unilateral decisions because it's an emergency. But as soon as the emergency is passed, you need to contact their other parent. So if they break their arm and you call the ambulance or you're rushing to the hospital, you got to go and take care of that emergency. And as soon as the moment of danger is passed, you got to let the other parent know. You just got to. Even if they're out of the country, do your due diligence. and let them know. Even if you know they're with another person and they don't want to come because they don't really care, you need to do your due diligence and let them know so that there can't be an accusation on the back end of, well, they didn't even let me know. Let them know. Let them know. Expect that there will be disagreements along the way. And one of the best places to come back to is mediation if you have disagreements you can't get past. Some people put tiebreakers into their agreement. If we're disagreeing about all of these things after X amount of time, then one of these people gets to be the tiebreaker. So if we are in disagreement about the proposed IEP, if we've had X amount of conversations, if it's been X amount of time, this person has a tiebreaker ability to make the final decision. Some people don't like that, but when it comes to your child, if you aren't making these decisions, if you delay, your child is the one being hurt. Now, for deep disagreements, come back to mediation to have a conversation of how do we move forward. I have people that come back post-divorce because they're walking out their mediated agreement and they realize, oh, we didn't talk about this, or our lives have changed, so we need to switch some things up to make this work for us. And that's absolutely fine. You're going to need to decide how additional medical expenses will be covered. So when you divorce in California, a child support document report is always run, a disomass report is always run. There's a child support forms that are included in your final agreement. And there's going to be a question about uninsured medical costs, additional medical costs. Because of the new laws that went into effect on September 1st, these are supposed to be divided in proportion to your income. So in the past, people usually shared these 50-50, and you can still do that if you choose to. But the default is if somebody makes, a percentage more, then they share a larger load of those extra costs. This is a conversation that should be happening because you already know that your child has additional needs above and beyond a typical peer. So make allowances for that. Know it's going to be extra costs out of pocket and discuss how you're going to share those costs and how they are going to be reimbursed. So as you're having these conversations at the kitchen table, at the park, in mediation, remember that your child is the focus. They are not the pawn. This is not a game. They didn't choose to be born, and they didn't choose for you guys to get a divorce. So keep them at the focus of how do we divide one another, divide our lives, but keep our child okay. Make sure that they are mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, academically okay. Because that's your role as the parent. And if that is your focus, even if you don't know the right answer, even if you don't know the way out of the conflict, even if you don't know, how are we going to do this and make sure they're okay? If your intention is to keep your child at the center and focus on their needs, then it's going to work out. You will find your way. You will be able to create an agreement that really takes care of your child's needs. And in the event that there's a part of your agreement that isn't actually working out the way you thought it would, then keeping your child at the center, there'll be enough humility that you guys are able to kind of adjust and change things so that your child gets what they need so that they can thrive in life. I know divorce is overwhelming. I know thinking about your kids and their needs is overwhelming. This is why I'm here to help you mediate a parenting plan that works for you guys and works for your kids. So please reach out so we can have a conversation and we can discuss how I can assist you.